Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name is GBay99. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. Today, we are back with another Legends of Runeterra video where we're going to be exploring the Vladimir Crimson deck. As you can see, I have three separate iterations of this deck named Dorian Gray 2.0, and Dorian Gray 3.0. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this deck, the way that it works is it's all based around the Crimson characters. Crimson characters are all, it's like 5 different characters if you include Vladimir, the champion, who are all based around the idea of taking damage that isn't lethal. For example, the Crimson Disciple is a 2/3 where every time she takes damage that doesn't kill her, she will deal 2 damage to the enemy nexus. And recently this deck got a bit of a buff because the Crimson Curator was previously a 3/2 who is now a 3/3 as of this patch. These decks are by no means meta, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get any wins with them in rank today, but we're going to try. The difference between all these different decks is this one, Dorian Gray, is the old deck I was kind of using in alpha with some tweaks here and there. Basically, if you look at the cards on the left-hand side of the screen, this uses Vladimir as well as Braum. The way that I kind of use this deck is I always go for, of course, Noxus for the Crimson characters, but then going Freljord in the secondary. That's because Freljord has a lot of similar characters where every time they survive damage, they will get attack bonuses. There's the Unscarred Reaver, there's the Scarthane Stefan. When I survive damage, he gets +3, Scar Reaver gets 2, and then there's also the Scar Mother, Virna, however you say that, where she's a 3/8 who gets +3 power every time she survives damage, and she also has Overwhelm. So you pretty much always want to go Freljord for your secondary region. And on top of it, not only do you have these other minions that synergize well with everything Crimson, but you also have a lot of buffs that will give bonus health, which this is going to be very useful, as you'll see in a moment. When it comes to differentiating between these decks, though, Dorian Gray is the one that I kind of came up with. Dorian Gray 3.0, this is a deck that you might have seen on Mobalytics. I forget who it is that made it, but there's a guy who's like listed as a pro on that site, who uses it. And the difference is he uses a lot of Overwhelm cards, because what you might find happening in a lot of your games when running this deck is you might have like a 1-drop Unscarred Reaver who starts off at a 0/3 but ends up being a 14/1 or something. The problem with that is there's no elusive on this. There's no Overwhelm naturally. So you might end up just having it die to a 1/1 minion, whatever, some sort of fodder that people can just throw at it and tank all that damage. So the thing that this deck does is it has a couple of different Overwhelm units. So Kato the Arm here, he will support his ally, giving his ally Overwhelm. And then there's also a spell somewhere here that will give Overwhelm to a unit. I think it's Might. Yeah, give an ally +3, +0, and Overwhelm this round. That's what this deck is kind of doing. It's using Overwhelm as the win condition that's really meant to push through any sort of easy minions that you need to be clearing. Dorian Gray 2.0 is the deck that I've made that's kind of a mixture between these two. The Dorian Gray deck that's more focused on Braum and buffs, and then the Dorian Gray 3.0, which is the one dude's deck that's a bit more focused on Overwhelm. This is a deck that I kind of combined the two, where it has a lot of those cards from the third deck, but it also has a few more of the buffing cards from my own Dorian Gray deck, as well as Crimson Curator, who did just get his buff, which is not in the deck list of the third deck. This is kind of confusing, but I will give you the deck codes for all of these decks in the description down below. Today, we're going to play 3 games and see if we can make this deck work, specifically the Dorian Gray 2.0. We're going to see if we can start off by getting a win in a normal game, but then we're going to bring it into ranked, which of course, we are in Diamond. It might be pretty tough to use this in Diamond, but we're going to see if we can beat some meta stuff with it. So let's go ahead and jump into game number 1. So for our first game here, it looks like we're playing against a kind of elusive, rushy Noxus Piltover deck. This is not good because one of the reasons I think this deck could be good right now is not only because the Crimson Curator got buffed, but also because elusive got nerfed. One of the problems with this deck is it suffers against elusives. It suffers against kind of just elusives. Stuff where you don't have the ability to trade into your opponent's minions. That's when this deck is really at its weakest, because if you have no ability to trade into your opponent's minions, then one of the big buffs of this deck is like, you know, he might put down a 3/1 trying to kill a Curator, and then I can use Elixir of Iron on it to buff it up and make it live. That's the kind of thing where that's where the strength of this sort of deck comes from. So we might be in a world of hurt right now because we still don't have a drop at the moment. There's a lot of 2-drops and 1-drops in this deck. We are getting very unlucky here. But here on turn 3, we will drop the Curator. Yeah, he's going really hard at our face. Already has us down to half health, which is not good. But we'll drop the Curator here, and then we can use Awakener next turn. We also have full spell mana. If you have to pass on turn 1, it's not the worst thing in the world because a lot of this... So yeah, right here, exactly. This is a good example of the perfect situation where... this is kind of how the deck works. You're anticipating your opponent trying to block with minions to kill these guys, as well as use spells on these guys to finish them off. And ideally, they will not be able to... Ideally, what you're hoping for is that you'll be able to use Take Heart, you'll be able to use Elixir of Iron, you'll be able to use Twin Pact or whatever to give health bonuses that not only prevent these from dying, but also things that will end up... But yeah, also things that will end up giving you a pretty nice setup where it will also activate whatever their ability is. So anyway, I'm rambling quite a bit here, but this guy... Okay, that's not good. But we might be in an okay position. Okay, that finishes us. We don't want that. I can't do anything else. If he has some sort of buff to these guys, he wins. Okay, he doesn't have a buff, but he might still have direct Nexus damage. We did take one of the Jinx thingies earlier, but is it enough? That's the question. That's not good. That's not good. This is getting really scary. We need to start going super aggro immediately. But we might be able to. We might be able to win on this very next turn, actually. Depending on what he does. No, we probably had to do that. I'm not really taking a long enough time to think about all my plays here, I think. I'm making a bit of a mistake because of that, I'd say. We could drop Vladimir here. We have 2 Vladimirs. And I want to keep enough mana for Might. We could do Crimson Awakener. I guess Vladimir makes more sense. Vladimir will get a bonus 3 damage. One thing that's really nice about Vladimir is he sets up really nicely for like for your win condition. So here we go. This is going to be interesting. Let's see how he decides to deal with this. I don't think this can be used on champions. It might be able to. Okay, so right now we're taking him down to 8 health. Do we have lethal? We could give this to Vladimir. Or we could do that. What's more? This would be more, wouldn't it? Is this... That's 7. No, that's 5. I think this is what we want. Is this lethal? This is exactly lethal. Sorry, it's been a while since I've been in school, and I'm not very good at mental math. But that should finish it. We do the 3 damage directly to his Nexus. That also levels up the Vladimir. Our 2-drop hits him directly, and then Vladimir has 9 attack. That's 8 damage through that. That's exactly lethal. Boom. Okay, so that was actually a really bad game and not a good example of what makes this deck good or what makes this deck fun, because we ended up having a really bad early draw and early curve. But you can kind of see how it works. You can kind of see the idea behind it. You have a few different win conditions you can use. You can, of course, go for like a big board if your opponent's rushing you down, drop a Vladimir, and then overwhelm someone to finish off the game. Or... another thing that we didn't really get to do is use our Crimson Awakener, and you can combo that with a number of your Crimson Disciples. The Crimson Disciple actually ends up being a very deadly card if you combo this with either Elixir of Iron, Take Heart, or Bloodsworn Pledge, because then you can end up dealing like 10 damage to an to an opponent's face just by consistently damaging your own Disciple over and over, which is one of my favorite parts about this deck. But we did get a win. Let's see if we can bring this into ranked and hopefully play it against some pretty meta decks and maybe get some fun wins here. All right, playing against an Ezreal control deck. This is never fun. This is going to be really frustrating and annoying, I think, but we might be able to make it work. This is actually a pretty strong starting hand for us. Here on turn 1, we are, of course, going to drop the Unscarred Reaver. We're also going to put Crimson Disciple out turn 2 and see what he does. Of course, the Ezreal control deck, that's the deck that uses a lot of Frostbites as well as a lot of board clear, you know, various different pieces of board clear to try and, you know, make it to late game and then use Ezreal and just spam down the Nexus with direct damage. And we don't really have a way to stop that, unfortunately. This deck is really all about board control, but one thing we can do is firstly see what he does here. Just use Transfusion. That should be perfect. Does he have anything dumb? He does not. He has that, but that's just going to make it even better. Oh, this is a great start. See, this is really the essence of this deck, is that it's a deck that's based around the idea of saying, hey, you know, normally what kind of happens whenever you play a card game is you see a lot of cards. Hang on. Again, perfect. Normally what happens when you play a card game, it feels like, is that, you know, we put some minion out to block him and then he'll do a bunch of spells buffing his guy that ends up killing our guy and making his live. Well, this is like that, but kind of in reverse, if that makes sense. Here, he'll be doing a bunch of spells to try and kill our guys, and then we'll use the spells. We'll use our own spells to buff them, allow them to live, as well as proc their various different abilities, which right here, this is looking fantastic. We're on turn 5. His Nexus is down to 3 health. He finally finishes off our 1 drop, but I don't really care. Does he have anything? Oh, do we do this? Or do we attack directly? I think we do this. So Vladimir is really cool for a number of reasons. Firstly, when he's leveled up, he's a 6/6 that has regeneration. That's a 5 drop, and that's never easy to deal with. He immediately surrenders. But also his active, of course, is that all of your battling allies, Vlad will deal 1 damage to all of them, and then however many people it is, like if it's 2 people, he will then deal 2 direct damage to the enemy Nexus. So right there, Vlad would have dealt 2 damage to our other 2 Crimson boys or Crimson girls, and then that would have dealt 4 direct damage to the Nexus. And on top of that, we also had a much scarier board than he did. So yeah, wow, I did not expect that to go so well. That worked out incredibly well. And we get the easy win. Let's go again. I'm sure there's plenty of you guys who are pretty seasoned veteran players of card games, and if you are, you probably know, you know, various card game terms like tempo or, you know, aggro decks versus mid-range versus control. I don't really know what to classify this deck. Maybe some sort of, I don't know, mid-range tempo-focused deck. But it's really all over the place. It can be played very aggressively early on, or it can be played for a pretty scary late game. But either way, we're going to see if we can hopefully just keep on winning games as quickly as we're winning them right now, because this has been very, very easy, not to jinx anything. All right, here for our 3rd game, we are playing up against a Draven. I assume this is a Noxus Piltover rush deck, which if he rushes us down, we might have enough to deal with him. We do have the I don't know how to say these guys' names. Steven. We have Steven right here. We'll put a Crimson Disciple out here on turn number 2. It's kind of important when you have a Transfusion or any one of these kinds of cards. It's kind of important to make sure that you have 2 useful people on the board. Like, we could put out the Aristocrat to get this to a 5-2, but I would much rather have multiple people who would benefit from taking 1 damage or surviving damage. Does he have anything? Is he just getting bad draws? He might be getting bad draws. And that's why he hasn't played anything. We'll see. Okay, interesting. There's Draven. We can't kill him by using that. We could... No, we can't use Quick Attack. We'll just use this. We'll use this. And if he attacks... I don't know what we'll do. I might just let him hit face. I could block him with this, but I don't think that's super beneficial. He could use his axe to kill him. This would, like, force him to use the axe, essentially. But I would rather wait, keep everything alive, use Bloodsworn Pledge and Transfusion or something, and make sure that we can finish off the Draven himself. All right. Now, this is going to be where things get interesting. Ooh. So this is like the I think we only have this card, the Scarmother Virna. This is our only late game card. It's a 6-drop. Do we attack or do we play something first? I think we just attack, because we might want to be using the 4 health to use a Bloodsworn Pledge. Yeah, like that. Or we could do Transfusion. Yeah, but either way, we can't. Okay, this is beautiful if he has no way to stop it. He could potentially buff his Draven to kill this, but killing the Draven is a huge, huge win for us. We have no more mana to do anything else. But if we can kill the Draven, have a 5-3, a 0-3 that gets benefits from buffs who we can potentially use Aristocrat on. What's he going to do? Yeah, so he can use 2 Spinning Axes to kill this, but that still kills the Draven and he's forced to discard 2 of his cards. I'm pretty sure his deck in general is pretty... Oh, that sucks. We can't save it. He does get another Spinning Axe. I didn't realize he got a Spinning Axe from that. I guess it makes sense anytime Draven attacks. All right. That's a little unfortunate. At least we finished off the Draven. I'm curious what he has in his hand. I'm a little worried about what he has in his hand, honestly. Okay, here we'll use this on this. Potentially use her to kill that. I'm not too sure. Is this a mid-range deck or is this an aggro deck? I feel like all the time, every time I see a Draven Noxus Piltover deck, it's like an aggro deck. Yeah, with a bunch of Boom Crew rookies and stuff that deals direct damage to Nexus. But he has not been super aggro here in the early game. We're already on turn 5 and he's only dealt 3 damage to my Nexus. So I'm actually feeling kind of confident here about our late game against his. This is actually a really solid draw for us. It kind of sucks because if we're playing all minions here, then we won't be able to use Might or Bloodsworn Pledge on the same turn, or like on any turn if we're playing these right away. But getting a Vladimir out on turn 5 and then the Scar Mother on turn 6 can be pretty crazy tough to deal with. Vlad is still pretty far away from being leveled up, which sucks, but it's fine. We'll deal with it. I think I'll use that. And do this. Keep him alive. Who cares? Takes us down to 13. Which isn't, you know, It's not good, but it could be worse. We have to remember he has an extra 3 damage from these spinning axes. And what's that? Ooh. Oh no, he's gonna axe that guy now. And kill Vlad. Alright, alright. Well, on the bright side, he has no cards. As I mentioned before, this deck does not exactly have card draw, but he has literally no cards. He only has 2 minions on board. Ooh, interesting. I think we attack with this right now. Because that's the trade that we want. I want to get that trade and then drop Scarmother. She could have killed the other guy and lived, but I prefer this setup. God, we have such a... Okay, we get the win. Yeah, so you can kind of see how this deck can be played. It can be played very aggro, as you saw the game before, where you're getting a lot of early drops, a really good curve, and then finishing off a Nexus fairly early on in the game, like turn 5 or 6. Or it can be played a little bit slower, like that, where you're a little bit more focused on board clear, you're a little bit more focused on building a strong board and preventing your opponent from rushing you down. It kind of depends on what you're playing against, but that's the nice thing about this deck, is it does have a lot of flexibility. Let's play one more game and see if we can still get another win. This is going better than I expected it to. Now this is very interesting. We are against a Vladimir Draven deck. Another Draven, but I don't think I've seen a... Thanks for that, Mulligan. I don't think I've seen a Vladimir being played in ranked at all, much less a Vladimir that hasn't been used in this sort of deck. I've seen a few people running my kind of deck in normals, where it's a Noxus, Freljord, Vlad deck. I don't see people just taking Vlad, though, and putting him in a random deck. That is very interesting. And, oh, it is a bit of a Crimson deck. So this guy has the same idea that we do. All right, you can go ahead and hit face here, buddy. I kind of, another thing I kind of like about this deck, you know, before this most recent patch hit, we had a lot of decks and a lot of just cards in general that were all aggro-oriented. Of course, the Hecarim deck, the Last Breath decks, pretty much everything Shadow Isles, as well as all those elusive decks that are just aggro, do nothing but be aggro. The thing that's kind of frustrating about those is, of course, you know, they can be very good, they can be very annoying and do quite a bit. That's 4 damage, right? I almost miscounted that. Yeah, they can be really annoying and whatnot, and it can work out pretty well. Yeah, we have to attack. I'm going to have to make that trade no matter what. But one of the things that's kind of frustrating about those decks is they're really reliant on getting a good curve. You know, getting a Mist Wraith Caller on turn 4, getting a Hecarim out on turn 5, getting a, an Elise out on turn 2 even. Those kinds of decks were really... If you didn't have the early draw, then it really made you suffer. But here, this is completely different. This is a really exciting thing for me, at least, to see. These decks are the opposite. These decks are all about going and being more passive in the sort of early game, or at least allowing you to have that option to just pass on turn 1, pass on turn 2, fill up your spell mana, because these spells can be really devastating. And then after turn 2, if you have full spell mana or near full spell mana, you can start being really aggro. Here we will pass because we don't want Aristocrat trading into Disciple. We want him to be making the attack. And I could drop the Vlad. I'm actually going to drop the Steven, though. Drop Steven so we can use Take Heart if he attacks, or we can use Aristocrat. Ooh. Now this is interesting, because I don't know what to do. I think we use Aristocrat on Steven. This does get him down to 3 health, but it's not that big of a deal. I'm thinking we can potentially go for maybe not a win next turn, but we can get close with a Might on him. Oh, he's getting rid of his axe. So if he attacks now, he'll only have 1. Oh, I wish I had enough. If I had 1 more mana for Take Heart, we could kill the Draven. Oh, he passes. Oh, no. I'm an idiot. It's our turn to attack. Hang on. Do we want to attack? I think we attack with him, certainly. And let's also attack with her. Because he could trade that into that. And that into that. Or he could trade that into that and that into that. But, like, trading this is not beneficial for him at all. And he can't kill both of them. Unless he has a spell. He doesn't have a spinning axe. He needs a spell that's like 2 mana. 2 mana, 1 mana, 0 mana. And it looks like he has it. I should have expected it. Getting that off the board is still good, though. Oh, really? Oh, my goodness. Thank you for that. Killing the Draven is way more important for me than anything else. Because he's probably looking at this like, oh, I can kill his bigger cards. But I have a Vladimir to drop. I can't drop him quite yet. But point being, I just have a really good curve. I also think that if he has his Vladimir somewhere in hand, my Vladimir is in a better position than his is. In terms of, you know, minions that are surviving damage and whatnot. Now this is interesting. Do I put the Scar Mother down or do I put the Vladimir down? I think I put Scar Mother because he just put him down. So if he attacks with him, I use Scar Mother to block. If he attacks with her, I use Scar Mother to block. If he attacks with both, I use the Scar Mother on her, let the other two hit face. The only thing that would kind of suck is if he only attacks with Boom Crew. Because I want to kill it in one turn. You know, I could use Scar Mother to block with Boom Crew, but I want to kill it in one turn to make sure that if he does have a Vlad, then it doesn't, you know, get leveled up before my Vlad does. What is this thing? I don't think I've seen this. Shuffle 4 copies of the supported ally into your deck. Interesting. Well, he did not attack, so that is not happening. Now, this is going to be beautiful. Look at this. Dude, look at this. Look at this play. We attack with everything after this and might basically win the game. Come on, what are you going to do, dude? This is going to level Vladimir up when we attack. We can also use Might on anything to kill anything if he tries to set up an advantageous trade. It will deal 3 direct damage to Nexus. It will deal probably more damage with the Virna, who's going to have at least 6. Yeah, okay, so here we go. So because things happen left to right, this is going to happen first. It's going to level up Vladimir. It's going to be awesome. We're going to love it. Okay, that kind of sucks a little bit. So this will still kill 2 of his cards. The question is, do we want to kill one of these with Might? I think the answer is yes, but I don't know which one. I kind of want to get the Curator out of here because he only has 4 cards, and we know that one of them is a Spinning Axe, which is not super beneficial at all. So I think I'm going to use Might here. We had to put, or we didn't have to, but we really wanted to put both of these out because this gets the Vladimir the level up. Not only does this get the Vladimir the level up, what is that? Not only does this get the Vladimir the level up, but it also gives additional damage to the Nexus. So even though giving these 2/2s out gives him a pretty advantageous trade, where it can proc the Disciple and proc the Curator unless we use a spell, which he can then use his own spell with. What? Oh, he's doing that for that. I was going to say, that's going to make this bitch huge. That almost won the game for us. That's really interesting. Does he have a way to win next turn? That is kind of annoying that he's getting the Curator to give him extra cards. Yeah, but look how big she is now. Oh, that feels good. So, please don't have anything. He shouldn't have anything. He does have Piltover, so he could have, like, 2 Mystic Shots. No, he doesn't. He has a Curator. All right. All right, all right, all right. So, here we go. We just have to survive this turn, pretty much. That's all we got to do. What do you have, sir? Koof, Mr. Koof. I respect you for playing the Vladimir deck. Or for trying to play a Vladimir Crimson deck, even if it's a weird one with Draven and Piltover stuff. But I'm a real man because I'm playing the deck the way it's made to be played. Ooh, that's annoying. All right, all right, all right. I'm not blocking with that. This is not even lethal on its own. It's scary. I guess I'll block like this. Yeah. I don't want him killing Vladimir, but I think if I just attack, you know, as long as he doesn't have a thingy. Yeah, exactly. If I block with that, then even if he does that, then who gives a shit? Okay, okay. I guess may as well do this. Although this could suck, because if he does have something, he can kill Vladimir now. If he has a Mystic Shot, he might have a Mystic Shot because he might be, like, thinking about this deck as just dealing direct damage. Like, that might be the idea behind his deck, is that he uses Crimson cards to get board control. He goes pretty aggro, and he uses Mystic Shots and Dravens and stuff to finish off the game and win. Okay, we're going to do this, though. He has no mana. Even if he did have something, we have Take Heart. I forgot about that, honestly. Although Take Heart, no, it's a damaged ally. It's not a follower. Okay, here we go. So this should win the game now. Fingers crossed that it does. That deals 28 damage over the Nexus. He should not be able to survive this. I didn't think about this. He could win if he has a spinny thing. He already used 2 of them. I misplayed here. That's a huge misplay. If he has a spinny thing, he can... No. He would have to buff them first because they wouldn't survive the 2 damage. If he had a spinny thing, though, then he could have dealt 4 damage to my Nexus directly, and then I was thinking I'm already 4 off lethal. There we go, though. Good game, well played. We get the win. This is a really fun deck. I love this deck. It's so enjoyable. It's so weird. It's not overpowered. It's not like Elusives or something where it's dumb, where if you get beat by it, you feel like the cards are just overpowered. Play this deck. We need more Crimson players in Legends of Runeterra. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching today's video. I will see you all in tomorrow's Runeterra video here on GB100. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Good luck in Ranked, and have a wonderful day.